got the right people in there, Hill.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody be patient. We're no farmer said we're in the short roads. Andy's, we have 15 minutes patience for him, and he assured me he did that or less. So we're about done. So let's give Andy your attention. Andy, for those of you who do, Andy Muncey, the Director of Information Technology. And we've asked him to come, Derek asked us to give us an update on our technology and implementation system. 15 years before. Hey, what is it, 15 years? He was. 15 years in? Yes, sir. Yeah. Good deal. He does a good job. Thank you, Derek. Yes, sir. He's always there. Derek? Yes, sir.
I know.
Good to see you all, section 1.
You guys are awful. Once again, no copies for them.
Derek, you have extra copies for the media?
We'll get it to them after. Okay.
Yeah.
Next week.
This is conspiracy stuff.
I know.
Information request will be on your desk at 8 a.m. Monday.
I'll put it with
Somebody needs, I can show the tape to somebody.
Can we just get a copy after? I'll take a copy. Are y'all?
Here, you can have mine like this.
Go ahead, Andy.
In opening, I'd like to talk about the data storage infrastructure project that we anticipate in the upcoming year. It's a both valuable project for Macon County, but it's also costly. And I'm prepared to present and research any answers to your questions, or if there are any questions that arise from the materials I provided, don't hesitate to reach out to me and discuss the solutions we're considering. I provided an overview on the first sheet here that lays out some of the types of infrastructure projects that we refresh, or hardware refreshes we do. For example, network infrastructure comes every 5 years or so. Server upgrades come every 5 years or so. And we try to stagger that so we don't have too much hardware refresh hit us at one time. First page there, basically I'm saying that any organization or department that tries to access to their data cannot produce. And this SAN project that I'm talking about, that's where the data lives. The SAN is the storage that actually houses that data. I had a department head who was without a workstation a couple of weeks back, and they felt like they were going to be able to make it through a day, and they realized that there was no function that they carried out in that day's work that didn't rely on them being able to access that data. So it's very important for us in our organization. The business problem for Macon County is that our data is stored on a storage area network. And that storage area network consists of hard drives. The SAN storage that we selected 5 years ago is not sufficient for the load that we have now in capacity, performance, or administrative capacity. It doesn't include the functional capabilities necessary to efficiently manage the variety of data and retrieval and recovery that our organization has placed on it. It's only through vigilant administration and tweaking that we've been able to maintain our current level of functionality. The administrative burden of manually managing that storage has taxed our advanced IT staff to an extent that progress on many of our projects has become stagnant because we've spent so much time just keeping that machine running. That's what we're having to do, rather than do some development work or work on document management that other departments are asking us to come help them with. We're having to keep this machine cranking along. The limitations of the current system, matched with advances in demand, have really led us to a near gridlock in our department. And part of that is due to staffing. We've requested staffing in the past couple of years, and we haven't received any additional staffing in IT. Staffing is not the whole solution to the problem. We feel that a refresh on this technology is going to take some of the burden off of our IT staff, because we're having to manually go in there and turn the cranks on some of this stuff. And so we're hoping that this will help to address that staffing need. But in the upcoming budget, I expect to come to you again and request some additional staff. It is time for a hardware refresh, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but I would hope that you take opportunity, those of you with handouts, to to go through it and sort of follow the course of action that we've taken to try to keep this system running. Initially, we were setting out to virtualize 8 servers. Now, since that time, we virtualized 34. So a system that was designed to virtualize 8 machines, we've got 34 machines running. And a lot of those servers and services did not even exist at the time that we deployed that same storage. It's through increases in document management and other demands that different departments have placed on us, that the burden on that storage has really caused us to outgrow. The current SAN solution, I have a couple of diagrams I'd like to pull out so you can understand why it takes so much storage to sustain these departments. The first pull out has some icons on it that you'll recognize from our county webpage. And basically this is just to visualize that each of our departments, they house a certain number of files. Some departments, DSS, house more than others. And the document count, our document management system is now exceeding 8.5 million documents. Some of those documents probably aren't needed. We've got retention schedules on different types of documents that we have to maintain. And some of those documents are probably larger in the storage footprint than they need to be because the IT staff doesn't have the time to work with these departments to make sure that they're scanning the correct resolution, or that they're not scanning something at 600 dpi in color when they could be scanning at 200 dpi in black and white. And so that puts an unnecessary burden on the hardware because we don't have the staffing to work with these people and train them to use that equipment most effectively for their document files.
How many folks you got?
I've got 8 people once I get the GIS first.
And he's been advertising, you're interviewing and applications coming.
We've got applications again for that, hopefully.
So that'll put you 8, but not really legit. What you're talking about with help with this, the new person.
No, well, this is basically a hardware request that we'll have. But the problem is that these types of projects, they take some of our key IT resources, some of our hard hitters, and they really keep them busy, keeping this system running, because we're having to work like a sliding puzzle. We're on computer to pay Paul, shifting loads back and forth, just to keep the system balanced. So in the diagram, I've got a couple of scenarios here that talk about the redundancies that this SAN storage provides us. And the diagram has some red X's for types of failures that we experience where a drive or a set of drives may fail. The data is replicated between 2 sites, our primary site and our disaster recovery site. I've illustrated that with this mirror here. Anything that gets written over here is supposed to be written over here. That's not done dynamically. A processor has to move that data across and keep it mirrored. And so that's a lot of network traffic. That's the reason we did a network refresh in the past year, because we realized that traffic had increased. And then the data that gets written to this, unlike your home computer, the data gets striped across multiple drives. So if you have one drive fail, you don't lose any data. The data is also protected by a hot spare drive. So if you have 2 drives fail, the data is okay. The data is copied over on the disaster recovery side. If a whole site goes down, the data is okay. That's our goal, to protect that data. And there are other mechanisms that aren't on this diagram, as far as our backup and archival, and that's what we're upgrading this year. But in the upcoming year, the big project is going to be that same. This data is stored on drives that run at different speeds. There are hard drives that run at 7,200 or 15,000 RPM with moving parts. In 5 years, those drives have spun 8 billion times. They're going to start paying. We've got service contracts on them, but they've got moving parts. The new system that we're proposing automatically tiers data, so the data that's most recently accessed stays on the top of the stack. If you have data that's needed quite frequently, then it's going to be on the fastest speed drives, solid state drives with no moving parts. And that reduces the failure and increases the reliability of being able to access that data. That has an impact on a variety of systems and departments, but really it's going to increase the performance of that, because the mechanism that keeps this data synchronized between those 2 sites in the new system that we're proposing, it's inherent, it's built in. They synchronize with one another. They don't require a third party to maintain that synchronization between them. So in the second diagram, I've illustrated somewhat the number of operations per second that our current drives are doing. They refer to that as IOs. That's the number of read writes in thousands probably. And the maximum speed of our current drives is about 320 IOs, depending on what speed drives they are and how they're paired up. The system that I'm proposing, supporting solid state drives, is going to deliver basically 1,000 times that performance, and that's for most recently accessed documents and most frequently accessed documents. You say, why would we need to go that fast? You just have to see under the hood, to see all the stuff that's going on to keep this mechanism working, to understand why that speed is so important. But what we do know is that everywhere where we can increase the performance of that data throughput, that it brings benefits to our workers and the performance of their systems. And where they were previously waiting, or they're waiting for a file to retrieve, the faster we can deliver that information to them accurately, and the better we can protect that data and keep it backed up on a regular basis, the better we're able to manage your infrastructure needs and deliver services to the county departments. So it covered wear and tear, talked about the end of life on the current system. We don't have an end of life. We've maintained the current system for more than 5 years probably, but it would not deliver any of these new technologies that we really need to get deployed. And so what I'm proposing is to take the current SAN system and let it become the secondary storage and begin deployment on these new SAN technologies. Maybe not fanning it out completely, but doing it over the course of a couple of years, maybe a 2-phase project. And try to maintain a system that can keep up with our data growth. The new technology also has a couple of key features that are very important that our original SAN didn't have. It's got something called deduplication. A number of the footprints for different servers in our organization are very similar. We're all running Windows, they're all running Office. There's a lot of the data that's on each machine and each virtual server that's completely identical. And this deduplication basically is able to provide us with a 10-to-1 ratio on that storage without being overly processor intensive. So it's not compression, it's just what's referred to as deduplication. The performance on our current system has been causing us a lot of disk latency issues. And although the end users may not realize that these errors are occurring, we're receiving alerts and warnings and flags saying disk latency, it took too long to get this file back. And eventually it gets to a point where their application will actually give them a fault. They'll get a delayed write fail, or the application will give them a database didn't retrieve the data error. And after the upgrade of our network infrastructure, we've seen a lot of that congestion reduced. Now we know that the remaining bottleneck is on that storage. Auto-tiering of the storage is where the data is moved into storage that's suitable for the amount that is retrieved, and basically it's also sort of auto-archives data that hardly ever gets retrieved. So if it's a document that hasn't been pulled up in 4 years, it's probably going to be off on slow storage, and that makes it easy for us to determine what can be archived off. The solution that I'm proposing is going to provide us a single interface to be able to do administration. Right now, we are having to use multiple interfaces that are sort of cobbled together to administer these resources. The manageability of that solution unifies the administration so that it's less likely that we will overlook a fault. Right now, we have to proactively go out and search for issues in the system, and the system that I'm proposing is going to alert us and do it in a more intelligent fashion, not just a boilerplate error message, but something that gives us an idea of how to rectify those issues. In serving the public, our organization is a massive consumer and producer of data. We're entrusted with it, we rely on it for our work, and we must handle it with care. I'm going to need some more staff, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck, Andy. Andy,
Thank you, Andy.
I'll admit I understood about 10% of what he said.
The RPMs is amazing. How many times you say it makes it go, Andy, if you,
Well, over 5 years, if you're going 15,000 RPM, that's probably about 8 billion revolutions those drives
Wow.
make. And increasingly, we're having to replace those drives. We've got them under service contract. The total cost of ownership on the replacement system is supposedly less.
have you had any fishing problems, Andy?
What's that?
Fishing problems?
Oh, as far as
Pitch.
people sending junk
Yeah.
mail, oh yeah, we've got a lot of security issues, and that's one of the reasons that we really need to protect the data. And there was one point that I didn't mention is that in light of some of those security concerns, we've also had to increase the amount of logging and audit trails that we maintain on a number of our applications. And
You've got
that
so
logging
sophisticated.
consumes a lot of space.
I'm glad you're there, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
That's on my head.
I followed you for one time, Bruce. I kept up with you.
Sure.
I just got a quick
comment on this. Thanks, Andy, probably not aware of this, but Tommy Jenkins and myself and Derek had a meeting with one of our business development tenants out there, and this is what they do. And it wasn't about what's going on here, but it was more about their needs that they're needing from the county for them to be successful, to bring a business to Macon County. And then it led into this conversation, but Derek, as you know, I'm all for it.